This is a mini PC from EVEng. It's the SER5 Max. I want to use this machine to install EVEng. It has a AMD 5800H mobile processor that's got 8 cores and 16 threads, 32 gigabytes of RAM split across 2 sticks, which you can upgrade to 64 if needs be, and a 500 gigabyte NVMe disk. Many users on the forums for EVEng or Reddit have reported that AMD processors can be problematic for certain images from Cisco or Juniper, and today that's the premise of this video, is to determine which images from the various vendors work and which ones flat out don't. To keep things simple, we'll do a bare metal installation. So on here I've got community edition of EVEng. This is a SATA to USB adapter, which we can then use to wipe the base Windows installation on here. We won't do any dual boot to keep things simple, no nested virtualization using Proxmox or ESXi. Keep it simple and hopefully eliminate as many issues as possible. So we will do that first, install EVEng, load all the images, and then test which ones work and which don't. So I have EVEng now running. Currently it's using 14% of its CPU and 67% of its memory, which is 32 gigabytes. I have 2 iOS on Linux nodes running, 6 QEMU, and 1 of the built-in VPCS nodes. Let's look at the topology here, and in the middle I've got a iOS L2 switch that connects to a iOS router, a Cisco ASA, a cloud services router, a rather memory consuming iOS XR 9K, and equally memory consuming NXOS 9K. And over here we have the 2 iOS and Linux devices. One's a switch and one's a router, and all of these work. So if I just bring in this window here, I can show that pings to all of these devices work and we are fully functional. Let's switch over to the Juniper side and let's see what's going on there. Here in the Juniper labs, things are a bit more colorful. On the left hand side I have the latest versions of VJunos Switch, VJunos Router, and VJunos Evolved. The switch and router power on, however, never become fully functional. There's a KVM related error, and the evolved image starts and then immediately stops. I've tried changing the emulation settings for this device here at the bottom a number of times, and no matter the combination, the evolved image fails to start every time. On the right hand side, I found an earlier version of Evolved and the same for Switch, and these suffer the same symptoms. The Switch starts but never becomes functional. The evolved image again fails to start. Fearing I'm doing something incredibly stupid and getting this wrong, I did manage to find a version of VMX, and that is fully functional. Can get out to the internet. Configuration happens on the VCP here on the left, and that controls the data plane, which is the VFP on here on the right. And this had no problems starting on its first go. The instructions were followed for all of these devices to the letter. Yeah, I've managed to have some success, but mostly failure. So there may be something here in the notion that EVEng on AMD processors has a problem. We've seen that all the Cisco devices do work, but mostly on the Juniper side, we've not managed to get any of the later supported versions to work. Yet this older version, VMX, which is now end of life, does. So what we'll do now is we'll look at some other images from some other vendors, again on the same platform, that's EVEng with an AMD processor, and then we'll retry this Juniper lab on an Intel-based processor and see how we fare with that. Here in the third lab, which I'm calling Others, I have 2 images here. One's from VyOS and the other from Cumulus. As we can see from these windows, they are fully functional, able to ping out to the internet. Resource-wise, they are both fairly light to run. Cumulus took me about 10 minutes to get going. It is new to me, never run it before, and I had to do a bit of Googling to find out what the commands were to configure it. However, VyOS has a very similar feel to Junos, and that was very easy to get going within a couple of minutes. This is a Beelink Mini S12. It has a Intel N100 processor. That's 4 cores, clocked at 3.4 gigahertz, 16 gigabytes of RAM, and a 500 gigabyte NVMe. I'm planning to use this machine for a upcoming video to create a Proxmox cluster running containers. However, in the meanwhile, we can use this to test our Junos lab. So the plan is simple. We're going to wipe Windows on this machine, do a bare metal installation of EVEng, the same version, and then we'll use the same images from before in the Juniper lab and see if we get a different result. Things look much better here now on an Intel-based machine. This is the same lab with the same images as before. So that's the latest versions of VJunos router, VJunos switch, and VJunos evolved. In the previous setup where we had it on an AMD processor, this router, although it did power on, never became functional. That's it here now, picking out to the gateway. This switch, which is the EX, also is now functional. And finally, this evolve-based image, which never powered on a AMD processor, now powers on and is fully functional. So there is something here to consider when running EVEng, or I imagine GNS3 when it comes to these images, that the choice of processor has an impact on the success of your ability to emulate certain images. I've repeated all the testing I did for the other images on the Intel-based machine, and in summary, it's just the VJunos images that didn't work on the AMD processor. The Intel-based machine is successful in running all images. If you've had success in running the VJunos images on an AMD processor, do let me know in the comments below. Hope you found this informative. Thanks for watching.